My name is Nicola. I am a housewife. Before that, I worked as an employee in a foreign-affiliated company where I met and hit it off with my husband, Louis, who was my senior at the time. Louis, who loves overseas travel and foreign cultures, and I had a lot in common and often went out for drinks after work. Our relationship deepened over time, and we eventually became lovers. A few years later, he proposed to me, and of course I accepted. By the time I was in my 30s, we had our daughter, Lola. With the encouragement of Louis and my in-laws, I quit my job and became a housewife. I am blessed with a kind husband, wonderful in-laws, and a cute daughter, and I am living a happy life. But recently, I've been worried about something. What's wrong? You're groaning. No, I'm just worried about our trip next month. I'm really sorry about that. Why are you apologizing, Louis? It's not your fault. At my words, Louis gave a wry smile and said, "Well, we're a family after all." I returned the smile. Actually, we have planned a trip with my in-laws next month, and the destination is France, overseas. There is a reason for this. My father-in-law, Michael, is a big fan of overseas travel. It seems that Louis was influenced by him when he decided to work in a foreign-affiliated company. I also have a fair amount of knowledge about foreign cultures, so I really enjoyed talking with Michael. I remember when I first attended a family meeting, Michael, who had heard about me from Louis, was very happy and asked me a barrage of questions like, "What country do you like? What cultures are you attracted to?" He is a very cheerful person, and his warmth made me feel at ease. My mother-in-law, Kaylee, is also a very compassionate person who loves to travel. So several times a year, we go on trips with my in-laws. So far, so good. The problem is that this time, my sister-in-law, Natalie, will be joining us on the trip. Natalie is a college student, so I wish she would act more like an adult. At Louis's words, I smiled wryly again. Actually, I have a good relationship with my in-laws, but things haven't been going so well with my sister-in-law, Natalie. Natalie is a college student who lives in the city, and she is currently living alone. The other day, when she went back to her parents' house, Michael accidentally mentioned the trip. Upon hearing this, Natalie, who happened to be on spring break from college, said she wanted to join. Ever since I first met her at a family meeting, I felt that Natalie didn't think very highly of me and seemed to see me as an enemy. Nice to meet you. I'm Nicola, and I'm dating Louis. I'm happy to meet all of you. Here, I hope you all like this. Oh, thanks for going out of your way. I'll go make some coffee. I never thought she would be such a beautiful person. Louis really did well. I met Nicola at work. We were in the same department, and Nicola also knows a lot about overseas. Really? Well, I would definitely love to talk about that. What countries does Nicola like? On the day of the family meeting, my in-laws were very kind to me, which helped me feel at ease during our conversation. It was during that time, "Hello, I'm back." At this time, Natalie was still living at home, so I was nervous. "Oh, Natalie, welcome back. Louis brought his girlfriend, so you should say hello too." "Huh?" I noticed Natalie's annoyed face at Kaylee's words. I stood up to greet her. "Hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm dating Louis." Before I could finish, Natalie interrupted me. "This plain person is your fiancé?" Natalie said, looking displeased, and Kaylee raised her voice, saying, "Hey!" But Natalie pressed on, asking, "Is that so?" Louis looked puzzled for a moment, but then seriously said, "Yes, I'm going to marry her. I want to make her happy for the rest of our lives." Louis. Just as I was touched by Louis's words, Natalie sighed loudly after hearing them and glared at me. "No way. She's not at all suited for you, Louis." "Huh? Natalie! I will never approve. If she's not a match for Louis, I won't approve." With that, Natalie left the room. I was stunned, and the in-laws sighed while Louis apologized to me, looking sorry. Natalie is just very attached to Louis. I'm sorry, Nicola. When I used to work overseas, Louis was like a father figure to her. I'm really sorry for making you feel uncomfortable. Oh, no, it's fine. Please don't mind her. It's really okay. Although I said that, I was still concerned. If we were going to be family, I wanted to get along as best as we could. The fact that Louis was like a father figure to Natalie probably meant that she liked him a lot and trusted him. It was only natural for her to feel uncomfortable when a stranger appeared. At that time, I was trying my best to get along with Natalie, but reality was not so sweet. When going to the in-laws' house, I brought sweets from a shop that Natalie liked and tried to start a conversation about France since she was good at French, but she looked displeased and always made sarcastic comments in the end. I don't need such cheap sweets. Oh, I heard from Louis that you liked this shop's sweets. Huh? I don't want you to ask Louis about me without permission. It's rude. And more. Natalie majors in foreign languages, right? Do you like overseas, like Michael and others? Why do I have to answer your questions? We're strangers. Hey, Natalie. Nicola is trying to get along with you, but what's with that attitude? I didn't ask to get along. I'm just worried because she's not a match for Louis. Once a wall is built, it's not easily broken down. At first, I thought I could handle it, but I eventually started to feel uncomfortable around Natalie. Even though Louis and my in-laws told me, you don't have to force yourself to get along. I couldn't help but worry about the fact that Natalie would be part of my family. I wonder if I did something wrong to Natalie. No, Nicola, it's not your fault. She wasn't happy when I told her we were getting married. Louis told me about the first time he informed his family about our marriage. Finally, Louis found a good person. I can't wait to meet her. I was wondering, but she sounds like a great person from what I've heard. She went to a local school until middle school, but her high school was, I'm home! Hey, I heard something about a good person and a girlfriend? What are you talking about? Louis's sister came home, and it seemed he was about to tell the whole family about our marriage. Welcome home, Natalie. Guess what? Louis is getting married. He proposed to his girlfriend, and she said yes. We were just hearing about her. That person is not a good match for Louis at all. Why would you say that? I mean, she only went to middle school. There's no way Louis will be happy marrying her. After that, Natalie would leave the room or go back to her room whenever the topic of marriage came up. It seemed like she had formed some sort of prejudice, and I felt complicated about it. That's awful. I don't know what she's misunderstanding, but it must have been uncomfortable for you, Nicola. I'm fine, really. Everyone understands, so don't worry about it. I didn't know I was being antagonized before we even met, but we eventually got married, and we had a daughter. On the day of the wedding, Natalie didn't say anything mean to me, but she glared at me with a dissatisfied expression. I kept that in my heart. After getting married, I didn't see Natalie much because she had moved out. Louis and my in-laws were considerate of me and would invite me to their home when Natalie was not there, so our interactions decreased. Things were peaceful, but now that Natalie was coming on this trip, I was honestly feeling anxious. After all, why would Natalie agree to go on a trip with me, someone she dislikes? Well, there's no use worrying about it. We have to enjoy the trip. You're right. Don't worry, Nicola. I'll step in if Natalie says anything. Just tell me if anything happens, okay? Okay, thank you. And then the day of the trip arrived. We prepared and headed to the airport to meet up. It had been a while since our last overseas trip. Despite the concerns, both Louis and I love traveling abroad and we're looking forward to it. Mommy, I'm excited for the trip. Yes, sweetheart. Make sure you greet Grandma and Grandpa properly, okay? Okay. Nicola, Louis. Kaylee was waving at us from a distance. We noticed and joined her. Please take care of me during the trip. I'm counting on you, Nicola. Don't worry. I've researched recommended places in France, so leave the guiding to me. That's reassuring. Okay, let's go then. We proceeded to the boarding gate and boarded the plane. Once the plane stabilized after takeoff, I headed to the restroom. After finishing up, I opened the door to find Natalie standing there. Startled, I almost let out a strange sound, but managed to compose myself and put on a smile. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Feeling awkward, I tried to quickly return to my seat, but Natalie began speaking with a smile. You're trying to suck up to our mom and pretend to be a good wife. Feeling so pampered, aren't you? You can't even speak French, and you laugh when someone recommends something. Do you think you can guide us with no education? I don't understand what you mean. Well, now that I'm here, I'll prove that you're completely not suitable for Louis. You better practice your pathetic French while you can. I wonder if you'll enjoy your time abroad with that. Faced with her blatant hostility, I frowned. This was supposed to be a fun trip, but it was already half ruined because of her. Natalie went into the restroom, leaving me unable to respond, so I returned to my seat. Her enigmatic words worried me, but I decided there was no point in dwelling on it any longer and spent the rest of the flight in contemplation. Upon landing at the French airport, I would come to understand the meaning behind Natalie's words. We retrieved our luggage and headed to the counter to complete the necessary procedures, waiting in line. The sound of French conversations around me somehow reminded me of my student days, and I started to enjoy myself. When our turn came, Natalie stepped forward saying, I'll handle this. Is Natalie going to take care of it? Yes, I've recently passed DELFB too, so leave it to me. I want to immerse myself in French. Natalie gave me a mocking glance and confidently began speaking to the staff. Starting with greetings, she explained our purpose for the tour. There were times she was asked to repeat herself due to her pronunciation, but having passed DELFB2 and studied foreign languages at university, her French was quite impressive. Natalie, you're showing off. What's wrong with that? I'm getting the message across, and doing that well at university is promising. Yeah, I guess Dad and I had some influence. I was watching them with a warm feeling, but that was about to shatter in an instant. At one point, Natalie told the staff, Nicola will also provide some information. I was puzzled, wondering what she meant, when Natalie looked at me with a sarcastic smile. The staff wants to know our personal information for the tour. I don't care about yours, so could you please tell them yourself? Oh, and I've already informed them about our moms and Louis. What? Natalie, mind your words. It's fine, Kaylee. Though her words were thorny and made me uncomfortable, I didn't want to cause trouble for the staff, so I held back. Seeing that I didn't talk back, Natalie continued with a triumphant look. Oh, and of course, you'll have to do it in French. She approached me, whispering in my ear. I want to hear Nicola's French, a dropout with no education. Well, you probably can't even speak properly. What? I didn't understand what Natalie was talking about. Where did this story about dropping out come from? Moreover, does she not know how to have a conversation with people? Even I was annoyed by Natalie's behavior so far. She seems to think I can't speak French or anything, and she seems to be looking forward to me being embarrassed here now. Well then, let's give her what she wants and let her hear some French, I thought to myself and stepped forward. Then I started talking to the staff. Of course, it was all in French. I listened to their questions and answered them fluently. It's been a while since I've spoken French, so I was worried about my pronunciation and stuff, but they understood me surprisingly well, so I was relieved as I continued the conversation. Of course, Natalie's eyes widened and she froze when she heard that. After I finished talking, the staff said, Are you American? You're really good at French. I was happy to hear that. Nicola is really good at speaking. I'm jealous. The pronunciation is beautiful, and the staff were surprised too. Louis, you can speak too. It's been a while, but I'm glad it went through. It kind of made me feel nostalgic. Wow, your responses are amazing. There aren't many people who can speak like that. This trip, I'm really relying on you. Don't say that. That's too much praise. Louis and my in-laws praised me a lot, and I was also embarrassed. But at the same time, Natalie yelled, "What the heck? Why can you talk so much?" As for me, I was bothered by her aggressive behavior and decided to get to the main point. "Natalie, I don't know who told you, but why did you think I dropped out?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" Louis exclaimed in surprise at my words. Natalie's source of information was completely unknown. At my words, Natalie opened her mouth, trembling. "Louis and them were talking that this woman dropped out." "I don't remember talking about that." "That's a lie! I heard it. She only went to school until middle school. That's why she's a dropout loser, right?" "Huh?" Everyone looked puzzled at her words. Then after a while, Michael continued. "Could it be? Are you talking about going to school up to middle school?" "That's right." "That's a misunderstanding. You only heard part of the conversation. The reason you suddenly barged in like that was because of that." Michael's words left me, Louis, and even Natalie with puzzled faces. At that time, Louis and I were indeed talking about Nicola, but it didn't mean that Nicola dropped out. It meant that she went overseas for high school. "Huh?" "First of all, you're misunderstanding. Nicola has always been studying overseas. Right, Nicola?" "Yes, I was overseas until college." It seems that Natalie misunderstood from Michael and the others' conversation that I was an uneducated person. When I graduated from middle school, I went to a high school overseas. In fact, my grandfather was working overseas at the time, and I became interested in going overseas myself. At that time, my grandfather was doing business in France, and I lived with my grandfather while attending high school. I continued to enjoy my time exploring foreign cultures and decided to attend college abroad. After various experiences, I wanted to bring what I had learned back to the US. So I returned home and managed to land a job at a foreign-owned company in the US. Of course, Louis and my in-laws knew about this. I told Louis when we started dating, and I shared my background with my in-laws during a family meeting. They said with a smile that it was great I had such good experiences. This topic often came up at my in-laws, which is how Natalie got the wrong idea. And that brings us to today. So it was all a misunderstanding by Natalie. Nicola went to college abroad, which is why she can speak French so well. Upon hearing this, Natalie clenched her fists and trembled with anger. She looked up and glared at me. Natalie didn't know this because she simply didn't like me and didn't want anything to do with me. She didn't think well of me from our first meeting, so we never had the opportunity to talk. This was evident at my in-laws, where Natalie seemed to dislike any mention of me, so my in-laws and Louis avoided bringing me up in conversation. Hearing this, Natalie burst into tears like a child. "I didn't know that. I wanted to see you embarrassed because you couldn't speak the language." It seemed like she was very upset about what had happened earlier. Louis sighed and finally spoke up. "Enough. Just stop it." Natalie flinched and her shoulders shook at the sound of his voice. I felt a chill run down my spine under Louis's cold gaze. This was the first time I had seen Louis this angry. "You've been harassing Nicola and saying terrible things, haven't you? And then you get angry and yell like a child when you're misunderstood. Are you trying to embarrass her? Is that why you came on this trip?" That's... Natalie's words faltered and Louis pressed on. "You've been treating her horribly since the family meeting. What do you want? Stop bothering the people I care about. If you keep doing this, I'll start to hate you." Natalie's eyes widened at Louis's words, and her face turned pale. She seemed to have taken quite a hit, and clung to Louis with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I did it for Louis." Louis cut her off quietly. "For me? Did I ask you to do that? If you ever mock Nicola again, I will cut ties with you, Natalie." Wait! This has made it clear to me. Natalie just doesn't understand unless you tell her directly. I knew that Natalie really liked Louis, and I felt sorry for her, but Louis was clearly very angry and didn't avert his gaze. Michael and Kaylee seemed to have their thoughts too and gently patted my shoulder, shaking their heads. Natalie kept repeating, "I'm sorry," through her tears. "It's not me you should be apologizing to." Natalie was admonished by Lewis and looked at me after a moment of silence. I'm sorry," and she bowed her head to me. After that, Natalie went to the hotel earlier than the rest of us because she wasn't feeling well. I felt sorry for the exhausted her, but Michael spoke quietly. "It's our responsibility that things turned out this way. Nicola, we're sorry to have made you uncomfortable on this trip. Can you forgive us?" "I'm really sorry. I didn't know that the reason for coming on the trip was... I apologize." "No, I'm totally fine. Really. Even if she's feeling down about what Lewis said, I think it was a good wake-up call for her." "I'm really sorry. I surprised Lola, too." "It's okay. It seems like the misunderstanding was cleared up. I was worried about how things would go, but the latter half of the trip was enjoyable." After being scolded by Lewis, Natalie seemed quite shocked and stopped harassing and being sarcastic towards me, participating in the trip with a bored look on her face. Even after returning home, thanks to Lewis and my in-laws giving her a stern warning, she stopped treating me poorly when we met. Later, I heard from Kaylee that after the trip, Natalie started studying foreign languages more diligently. She was probably inspired by Nicola's French. Let's just say that was a good thing. But if something like this happens again, I won't forgive her. Thanks for getting angry for me. I don't know if Natalie is studying to get back at me, but with my husband and in-laws as strong allies, I'm confident that I can handle whatever comes my way. Experiences can sometimes bring unexpected life lessons, and this experience has made me want to continue actively contributing to my own growth. I want to cherish the people around me and live my life treasuring every experience.